So we actually have some good news today. Thousands of fired federal workers must be rehired immediately, judge rules. U.S. District Judge William Alsup described the mass firings as a sham strategy by the government's Central Human Resources Office. A federal judge on Thursday ordered federal agencies to rehire tens of thousands of probationary employees who were fired amid Trump's turbulent effort to drastically shrink the federal bureaucracy. U.S. District Judge William Alsup described the mass firings as a sham strategy by the government's Central Human Resources Office to sidestep legal requirements for reducing the federal workforce. Alsup, a San Francisco-based appointee of President Bill Clinton, ordered the Defense, Treasury, Energy, Interior, Agriculture, and Veterans Affairs Department to immediately offer all fired probationary employees their jobs back. The Office of Personnel Management, the judge said, had made an unlawful decision to terminate them. And even if it is upheld on appeal, it does not guarantee that all the workers will be able to get their jobs back permanently. Okay, so this part kind of sucks a little bit. Alsup made clear that agencies still have the authority to implement reductions in force, as long as they follow the proper procedures for doing so. Federal agencies are currently finalizing reduction in force plans. Alsup issued his ruling in a lawsuit brought by federal employee unions. He lashed out at the Justice Department over its handling of the case, saying he believes that the Trump administration lawyers were hiding the facts about who directed the mass firings. You will not bring the people in here to be cross-examined. You're afraid to do so because you know cross-examination would reveal the truth, the judge said to a DOJ attorney during a hearing Thursday. I tend to doubt that you're telling me the truth. I'm tired of seeing you stonewall on trying to get at the truth. Alsup also said the administration attempted to circumvent federal laws on reducing the workforce by attributing the firings to performance when that was not in fact the case. The judge called the move a gimmick. It's a sad day when our government would fire some good employee and say it was based on performance when they know good and well that's a lie. More than 5,000 probationary workers for the USDA had already won a reprieve last week when the chair of the Federal Civil Service Board ordered them reinstated for 45 days. Alsup is the first federal judge to order the administration to broadly unwind the firing spree that has roiled the federal workforce during Trump's first 2 months in office. Alsup emphasized that he was not ruling that the government is unable to lay off personnel at federal agencies, but that the Trump administration was in such a hurry to do so that it shunted aside federal laws that dictate the procedures for a so-called RIF. The words I give you today should not be taken that some wild and crazy judge in San Francisco said that an administration cannot engage in a reduction in force. It can be done if it's done in accordance with the law. Alsup is also seeking answers about the administration's position that fired federal workers should have to seek relief from 2 executive branch agencies tasked with supervising federal workplace issues, the Merit Systems Protection Board and the Federal Labor Relations Authority. The judge expressed concern that Trump's effort to remove members of those boards might render them ineffective. So you have to go to these boards, but we're about to take away all the staff. So you have no reprieve at all. I cannot stand these people. Alsup had ordered the acting head of OPM, Charles Ezell, to appear at the hearing Thursday so he could be cross-examined about his claims that the personnel office did not direct any firings but simply provided guidance to other agencies about how to carry out the dismissals. However, the Justice Department lawyers told Alsup earlier this week that Ezell would not appear, and the government withdrew a sworn declaration Ezell submitted earlier in the case. At one point Thursday, the judge reprimanded Assistant U.S. Attorney Kelsey Helen for the government's decision not to make the witnesses available. You're not helping me get at the truth. You're giving me press releases, sham documents, the frustrated judge said, adding, I'm getting mad at you, and I shouldn't. You're trying to do your best, and I apologize. Helen, who sat alone at the table for government counsel, argued that the agencies made the firing decisions, and he said the timing was driven by the urgency of Trump's agenda, not any moves by OPM. Everybody knew the new administration was prioritizing this, and the political appointments wanted to comply with that administration priority. The DOJ attorney said this was not in order by OPM, but the judge noted that some agencies told employees they were instructed by OPM to fire every probationary employee deemed non-essential. So that's the end of that. Hopefully some checks and balances actually prevail in this crazy political climate, because Trump and his MAGA people just are simply acting like they can just rule over everything, like there should be no checks, like he's a king or this is a monarchy or something. But hopefully Congress, the Republicans in Congress are complicit in all of this, because they have ceded they've ceded their power. They had basically given over their power of Congress to the Trump administration. They have given away their power. Hopefully the judiciary stands. Let me know what you think about this one. Join the conversation. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. So we need to talk about this cluster F of major proportions, all of these Trump tariffs, this Trump trade war, and this Trump session. It seems like he's trying to pull us into some kind of global recession. I didn't realize that we were putting tariffs on India and Australia. And all of a sudden today we're putting tariffs on the EU for their wine and champagne. We got all of this going on, and it's causing so much market volatility. And it seems like all of the market numbers are falling off of a cliff, plunging into the depths of hell. So we got a whole lot going on, and we need to talk about what is going on and what's been going on in the last couple of hours. Well, just today, because it seems like this is a roller coaster. You put the tariffs on, you put the tariffs off, you put the tariffs on, and you shake it all about. You do the tariff hokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Tariff hokey. All right, let's check it out. Okay, so let's talk about this one. Trump threatens 200% tariff on European alcohol as trade war escalates. Trump on Thursday threatened to impose a massive tariff on European alcohol in response to the European Union's retaliation against his steel and aluminum tariffs, a tit-for-tat escalation of a trade war that could easily get out of hand. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said that his administration would impose a 200% tariff on alcoholic beverages from the EU unless it rescinds the 50% tariff the European government imposed Wednesday on the United States spirits. If this tariff is not removed immediately, the United States will shortly place a 200% tariff on all wines, champagnes, and alcoholic products coming out of France and other EU represented countries. Listen to this sentence. America's response to Europe's response to America's tariffs in the span of 36 hours show how trade wars can quickly spiral out of control. After Trump's 25% tariffs on aluminum and steel went into effect at midnight Wednesday morning, the EU immediately retaliated against what it called an unjustified trade action from the Trump administration. So Trump is upset that they're retaliating. I don't know. The EU's countermeasures include tariffs on 26 billion euros, that's around $28 billion worth of American goods, including tariffs on boats, bourbon, and motorbikes. The measures, which are set to go into effect in April, are swift and proportionate, the EU said in a statement. All right, let's talk about Australia. It says Australia won't retaliate against unjustified U.S. tariffs. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said Wednesday that U.S. tariffs on Australian steel and aluminum were unjustified, but his government would not retaliate with its own tariffs. Donald Trump said last month he was considering a tariff exemption for Australia, a free trade treaty partner that has traded with the United States at a deficit for decades. A former Australian government secured an exemption with the previous Trump administration in 2018 based on arguments including that Australian steelmaker BlueScope employs thousands of workers in the United States. Albanese said he would continue to pursue an Australian exemption. The 2018 exemption took several months to secure. It has been foreshadowed that no country, regardless of its relationship with the United States, has been granted an exemption. Such a decision by the Trump administration is entirely unjustified. Tariffs and escalating trade tensions are a form of economic self-harm and a recipe for slower growth and higher inflation. They are paid by the consumers. This is why Australia will not be imposing reciprocal tariffs on the United States. And that's the thing. These people keep acting like the people that live in the country, they're the ones that pay the tariffs. We here in America, we're going to be paying these tariffs imposed on other countries. But I don't know. This is what he campaigned on. And he is really like, tariffs on everybody. You get a tariff. You get a tariff. This is everybody gets tariffs. All right, let's talk about India. U.S. tariffs on India will be a bitter pill to swallow. With Donald Trump's tit-for-tat tariffs on India looming next month, millions of Americans may have to brace for steeper medical bills. You know people are going to love that. Last week, Indian Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal made an unscheduled trip to the United States for discussions with officials, hoping to strike a trade deal. It followed Trump's announcement that he would impose tariffs, which are government taxes on foreign imports, on India by April 2nd in retaliation to India's tariffs on American goods. Goyal wants to stave off tax increases on India's critical export industries like medicinal drugs. So India imposes tariffs. Donald Trump wants to do tit for tat, but doing tit for tat on medicine means Americans are going to pay that tariff on the medicine that we're getting from India. And I wonder how many people knew this. Nearly half of all generic medicines taken in the United States come from India alone. Generic drugs, which are cheaper versions of brand name medications, imported from countries like India, make up 9 out of 10 prescriptions in the United States. This saves Washington billions in healthcare costs. In 2022 alone, the savings from Indian generics amounted to a staggering $219 billion, according to a study by consulting firm IQVIA. Wow. So that is going to really drive up costs for everyday Americans. Without a trade deal, Trump's tariffs could make some Indian generics unviable, forcing companies to exit part of the market and exacerbating existing drug shortages, experts say. Tariffs could worsen the demand-supply imbalances, and the uninsured and poor will be left counting the costs, says Dr. Melissa Barber, a drug costing expert from Yale University. The effects could be felt across people suffering from a range of health conditions. Over 60% of prescriptions for hypertension and mental health ailments in the United States were filled with Indian-made drugs, according to the IQVIA study funded by the Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance. Sertraline, the most prescribed antidepressant in the United States, is a prominent example of how dependent Americans are on Indian supplies for essential drugs. Did y'all know this? I did not. Many of them cost half as much as those from non-Indian companies. We are worried about this, says Peter Maybarduk, a lawyer at Public Citizens, a consumer advocacy group fighting for access to medicines. 1 in 4 American patients fail to take medicines due to their costs. So we got all kind of costs going up. Costs for groceries, costs for medicine, costs for cars and car parts, costs for drugs. I'm sorry, we already did drugs. Costs for alcohol. So lots and lots of extra costs. Is this the greatness that we're talking about? Great price increases. Yay. So this whole roller coaster ride of tariffs is causing the markets to shake and quake. They're talking about stagflation. So not just inflation, but stagflation. We're also hearing a Trump session, aka the Great Depression, or the greatest of depressions. The economic chaos unleashed by Trump has put the S&P 500 on the cusp of correction territory. The broad index of United States stocks declined by about 0.9% as of Thursday afternoon. If the index closes at or below that level, it will have officially fallen 10% from the all-time high it reached last month. It has now fully erased all of its post-November election gains and is back to levels last seen in September. Among the companies seeing the biggest declines over the past 3 months are Tesla down 40%. Yay, let's go. We can go lower than that. Nvidia down 17% and Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft each down 15%. Corrections have historically occurred about every 10 to 15 months on average, but it has been an unusually long time since the United States stocks had experienced one, nearly 3 years. Let's get to this part about stagflation. It says, meanwhile, the prospect of stagflation, meaning accelerating price increases alongside lackluster growth, has increased. Underlying data in two inflation reports this week suggests the Federal Reserve preferred measure of price growth will show firmer price growth occurred in February, undercutting Trump's campaign promises to counter price increases. On Thursday, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that the Trump administration is more focused on the long-term health of the economy and markets rather than short-term movements. I'm not concerned about a little bit of volatility over 3 weeks. So they're concerned about the long-term health of the economy, yet keep putting these trade war threats, these tariff threats on and off. And that is causing uncertainty and volatility in itself. Everything that he is doing, he is causing this. All right, y'all. So that's the end of that. Lots of stuff going on. Lots of moving pieces going on. And by the time I even post this, I'm sure something else is going to be going on. Let me know what you think about this. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.